Welcome to a session called Truth, Knowledge, and Light. I'm Joseph Williams, and we're using this platform in a way that all of us who are watching and tuning in, be it your computer or wherever you are, we're using this as a platform to discuss and talk about various issues in order that all of us may grow collectively together, because that's the point of life, is improving upon yourself one day to the next. Before we start, what I want you to do is just to take a few moments, and if someone asked you a question, if someone were to ask you to write down a few words to describe me in whatever way you choose to, what would you write? Just take a few moments to think about that. Okay. Now, I'd be willing to bet you that 98% of individuals, if I were able to look to see what you would write down to describe me, on 98% of those pages, it will say black. Why is this? Why is it that whenever we are describing a person, that their race is always a preemptive and dominant type of way that we describe what it is that we see? This is a problem that has not only plagued America, but is plaguing the entire world. And what I want you to know and understand about race is a social construction of humankind. It is a way that humans have grouped various ethnicities and people of color. And every time a group is made, it divides the human race. And regardless of what you believe, regardless of what you think, if you have faith, whether you do not, if you're a believer or whether you are not, doesn't matter. Race is not something that God invented in terms of its terms. What denotes the differences between the race is that person's ability or features that are genetic in order to allow him or her to exist in a successful way in that region that they live. Black people are black because black people are from Africa, from a place that is hot, and our skin allows us to be resilient to excessive sunlight. You find a lot of white people don't have nappy hair or kinky. Our hair is kinky because the kink or the spiralness of the hair follicle allows heat to escape the cranium, so it allows us to cool ourselves more. When you see white people who have long, straight, layered hair, it allows their heads to be insulated. Why is it that white people are hairier than black people? It's not a race thing, but it's about a land where we're from. That's why races are different. But what humanity has done is looked upon those differences and divided the human race. Race is a social construction, okay? And in America, when you see the division of race, every single person wants to identify himself or herself through race. African Americans, Latinos, Hispanics, you have to be certain to delineate because there's a clear difference. Asian Americans, Native Americans, okay? And when you're creating this huge, it's not a melting pot, but it's basically a salad. A salad has cucumbers and it has tomatoes and it has peppers. It's not really a melting pot, because a melting pot, the contents of it become one. We are not one. And this is one reason why America is having such an issue with getting beyond the race. So what is it that we as human beings need to do to get over this race issue? Okay, why is it that blacks are always playing the race card? Why is it that whites are talking about reverse racism? Why is it that smaller groups are feeling that they're left out of the minority pot? The reason why is because until we destroy the construction that we as human beings invented called race, there will continuously be a race issue. You know, all of us are human beings. All of us bleed when we're cut. All of us will cry if we're in pain. We're all one people, one nation, and we have to look upon ourselves in that fashion and manner. Now, the steps that need to be taken is when we stop considering ourselves Black Americans, white Americans, Latino Americans, Asian Americans, and just call ourselves Americans. Now, if you want to consider yourself under the auspices of the sovereignty of a nation, now my preference is I'm a human being. But if we have to dichotomize, why can't we just all be Americans? Why does there have to be a Black agenda or a Latino agenda or a white agenda? You see, until we progress past this mentality that keeps us in this predicament of fighting, of a dividedness, then you're going to see the issues that you're seeing. You're going to see whites against blacks and Asians against Latinos and Latinos against whites. You're going to see that. You're going to see the various dichotomy of politicians, Democrats and Republicans. They're going to reach out and exploit those dichotomies because it's such a natural construction that divides people. And being that I am Black, and I say that just not to go against what I've just told you, but just for identification purposes and to make a point. You know, we as Black people must stop using the N-word. That is a word that no person should ever say. You can't blame people of other ethnicities for saying it's okay to use because we use it. And we began to try to argue how it's okay for us to use it. Every time the N-word comes out of your mouth, you perpetuate a certain mentality that has kept us in the positions of oppression as we are. Bob Marley said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. And every time we use that harsh, condescending, horrific word, we remain in a state of mental slavery. Now, whether you like our president or whether you do not, one thing that I admire about him is being an African American, as he's called. He hasn't moved the Black agenda. When you have people like Cornel West and Tavis Smiley to come out saying, what is he going to do for Black people? Well, I mean, what sense does that make? This man is representing over 300 million people. Why should his agenda just be and encompass 12% of 300 million people? What logical sense does that make? I want a president who is a person who is about moving humanity, human beings. And until we get off of race and understand it is a social construction, we will remain in the shackles that keep us divided from our brothers and our sisters. Chew on that. Kind of reflect on it, because within it, I hope you'll find great revelation and room for you to grow personally. Till next time, I'll see you.